In the pursuit of being able to give you individuals an opportunity to be able to look at things and see things properly, right? Like, I always wanted my channel to not just bring you the news stories, but also give you the ability to see things in a clearer manner, right? That's why I did the book series of the Niccolo Machiavelli, you know what I mean? That's why, like, I always try to, like, bring in history and try to show you the numbers and things of this nature, because I want you to be well informed. I think it's important that I not only stand here and tell you things, I think it's important that I give you the tools to be able to see through the bullshit. And with that, I'm going to give you something that I read a long time ago. I'm going to read it to you. It's called Propaganda. It's from a man named Edward Bernays. Edward Bernays was an essential part of American history, and a lot of people have no idea who he was. He started wars. He helped direct U.S. policy. He was the individual who is the reason why you like bacon, believe it or not. You know what I mean? I know you think that might be a good thing, but it's probably not. Like, he came up with the ideology of having doctors stand here and give recommendations on why you should eat something, right? He sat there and had female smoking because tobacco companies wanted to sell cigarettes to women. So he called them liberty torches in the name of feminism. These here are but a small few things that he's done in the history of America. He also helped pass wars and helped the government sell the wars to the American people. And with that being said, I think it's important that we understand how the propaganda comes out of the government and gets handed to the news, and how the news sells it to us. And allowing you the opportunity to be able to have the glasses or the bifocals or the telescope, as you were, to be able to see through the bullshit is fucking important. Being able to give you the filter to look past their garbage, I think, is highly important, right? So without further ado, I give you Propaganda by Edward Bernays in 1928. So, Chapter 1, Organizing Chaos. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. This book's going to be very, very good for y'all. We are governed, our minds molded, our taste forms, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together in a smoothly functioning society. He's talking about advertising executives, right? Our invisible governors are in many cases unaware of the identity of their fellow members in their inner cabinet. They govern us by their qualities of natural leadership, the ability to supply needed ideas, and by their key position in the social structure. So, you know, we're talking movie stars, actors, individuals who are running businesses, things of this nature, right? Whatever attitude one chooses to take towards this condition, it remains a fact that in almost every aspect of our daily lives, whether the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by a relatively small number of persons, a trifling fraction of our 120 million who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. Yeah. Back in 1928, there was only 120 million Americans, so this is not like a new book, right? It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind, who harness the old social forces and contrive new ways to bind and guide the world. It is not usually realized how necessary these invisible governors are to orderly functioning of our group life. In theory, every citizen may vote for whom he pleases. Our Constitution does not envisage the political parties as part of the mechanism of government, and its framers not seem not to have pictured themselves the existence of our national politics of anything like the modern political machine. But the American voters soon found that without organization and direction, their individual votes cast perhaps for dozens or hundreds of candidates would produce nothing but confusion. Invisible government in the shape of rudimentary political party whose arose almost overnight. Ever since then, we have agreed for the sake of simplicity and practicality that party machines should narrow down the field of choice to 2 candidates or at most 3 or 4. In theory, every citizen makes up his mind on public questions and matters of private conduct. In practice, if all men had to study for themselves the abstruse economic, political, and ethical data involved with every question, they would find it impossible to come to a conclusion about anything. Oh man, that's a yard. So he's talking like legitimately about the basic structures of how we run our fucking society. And if you've never read this book, well, it's like a pamphlet. It's not that long. That's why I'm gonna read it to you, right? And he's talking about, most Americans are fucking dumb. It's basically what the fuck he just said. He said y'all are too stupid to understand things. So. We do a better job at telling y'all what y'all should think. We have voluntarily agreed to let an invisible government sift the data and high spot the outstanding issues so that our field of choice shall be narrowed to practical proportions. From our leaders in the media, they use to reach the public. We accept the evidence in the demarcation of issues bearing upon public questions. From the ethical teacher, be it a minister, favorite essayist, or merely a prevailing opinion, we accept a standardized code of social conduct to which we conform most of the time. Well, at current, that's getting broken down with the internet and, just basic culture, it's kind of being broken at this point. But, we all have rules in which we live, right? It might be better to have instead propaganda and special pleading, committees of wise men who would choose our rulers, dictate our conduct, private and public, and decide upon the best types of clothes for us to wear and the best kinds of food for us to eat. We have chosen the opposite method, to that of open competition. We must find a way to make free competition function with reasonable smoothness. To achieve this, society has consented to permit free competition to be organized by leadership and propaganda. Welcome to the motherfucking book, my friends. Some of the phenomena of this process are criticized. The manipulation of news, the inflation of personality, and the general ballyhoo by which politicians and commercial products and social ideas are brought to the consciousness of the masses. The instruments by which public opinion is organized and focused may be misused, but such organizations and focusing are necessary to orderly life. As civilization has become more complex and the need for invisible government has been increasingly demonstrated, the technical means have been invented and developed by which opinion may be regimented. So this is the very, very beginnings of, this is like radio, but like it's early days of the radio, before TV, and this is pre a whole lot of technological advancement and ability to fucking share, mass media, and it has grown in its complexity at this point, right? As civilization has become more complex, there's a need for, with the printing press and the newspaper and the railroad and the telephone, the telegraph, radio, and airplanes, ideas can be spread rapidly, even instantaneously over the whole of America. H.G. Wells senses the vast potentials of these inventions when he writes in the New York Times. Modern means of communication, the power afforded by print, telephone, wireless, and so forth, of rapidly putting through directive, strategic, or technical conceptions to a great number of cooperating centers, of getting quick replies and effective discussion, have opened up a new world of political processes. Ideas and phrases can now be given an effectiveness greater than the effectiveness of any personality and stronger than any sectional interest. The common design can be documented and sustained against perversion and betrayal. It can be elaborated and developed steadily and widely without personal, local, and sectional misunderstanding. This is legitimately this is why when you stand here and you see them YouTube videos where they have the news is saying the same thing all over the fucking nation, this is where it really fucking comes from. What Mr. Wells says of political processes is equally true of commercial and social processes and all manifestations of mass activity. The groupings and affiliations of society today are no longer subject to local and sectional limitations. So basically he's saying, you know, I mean, there's no more like South or North or East or West, you know, like it all fucking plays the same way, which is what they really, you know, I mean, have been building to at this point, and like this point right now, like they've almost fully implemented, except, you know, there's pockets of us out here who we don't fucking buy their garbage. When the Constitution was adopted, the unit of organization was the village community, which produced the greater part of its own necessary commodities and generated its own group ideas and opinions by personal contact and discussion directly among its citizens. But today, because ideas can be instantaneously transmitted to any distance to any number of people, this geographical integration has been supplemented by many other kinds of groupings, so that persons having the same ideas and interests may be associated and regimented for common action, even though they are 1,000 miles apart. Right? So, you know, we still have this conversation today. Like, legitimately, we still have this basic discussion where we stand here and we go, is this what we want to be doing? Right? And I mean, like, on a federal level. And that's why the federal government is way more important than your state government at this point, because you have the ability to have that conversation long term, and they can more centralize the fucking thing, more centralized power. So when they're more able to centralize power, they take it away from your local and your state representatives, and it takes it away from your community and puts your community far behind the importance of the federal government. It is extremely difficult to realize how many and diverse these cleavages in our society. They are social, political, economic, racial, religious, or ethical, with hundreds of subdivisions of each. In the World Almanac, for example, the following groups are listed under the A's: the League to Abolish Capital Punishment, Association to Abolish War, American Institute of Accountants, Actors Equity Association, Actuarial Association of America, International Advertising Association, National Aeronautic Association, Albany Institute of History, History and Art, Amen Center, American Academy in Rome, American Antiquarian Society, League for American Citizenship, American Federation of Labor, Amorc Andiron Club, American Irish Historical Association, Anti-Cigarette League, Anti-Profanity League, Archaeological Association of America, National whatever, right? The American Newspaper Annual Directory for 1928 lists 22,128 periodical publications in America. I have selected the random ends published in Chicago. They are Narod, Bowman Daily Newspaper, Narod Polski, Polish Monthly, NARD Pharmaceutical, National Corporation Reporter, National Culinary Progress for Hotel Chefs, National Dog Journal, National Drug Clerk, National Engineer, National Grocer, National Hotel Reporter, National Income Tax, National Jeweler, you'll get the idea. The circulation of some of these publications is astonishing. The National Livestock Producer has sworn publication of 155,978. The National Engineer, 20,328. New World, an estimation circulation of 67,000. And I'm going to take a second pause here. What we're going to, this applies just as well to websites and, you know what I mean, like it can just scale up for the internet, you know, just so we know, right? The diversity of these publications is evident at a glance, yet they can only faintly suggest the multitude of cleavages which exist in our society, along which flow of information and opinion carrying authority to the individual groups. Here are the conventions scheduled for Cleveland, Ohio. Recorded a single event, a single recent issue of World Convention dates, a fraction of 5,500 conventions and rallies scheduled. The Employing Photo Engravers Association of America, Outdoors Writers Association, the Knights of St. John, the Walter League, National Knitted Outwear Association, the Knights of St. Joseph, the Royal Order of the Sphinx, the Mortgage Bankers Association, International Association of Public Employees. Right. Other conventions can be held in 1928. The National Association of Limb Manufacturers, the National Circus Fans. Right. This guy gets real technical about stuff. All right. If all these thousands of formal organizations and institutions could be listed, no complete list has ever been made, they would still represent but a part of those existing, less formal normally but leading vigorous lives. Ideas are sifted and opinions stereotyped in the neighborhood bridge club. Leaders assert their authority through community drives and amateur theatricals. Thousands of women may be unconsciously belonging to a sorority which follows the fashion set by a single society leader. Life satirically expresses this idea in a reply in which it represents an American as giving to the Britisher who praises the country for having no upper and lower classes or caste. Yet we all have as the 400, the white-collar men, bootlegger, Wall Street barons, criminals, DAR, the KKK, National Dames, the Masons, Kiwanis, Rotaries, the KFC, Elks, the censors, or whatever. Yet it must be remembered that these thousands of groups interlace. John Jones was, besides being a Rotarian, is a member of the church, a fraternal order of a political party, a charitable organization, a professional association, of local chamber of commerce, of a league for or against prohibition of society, for against the lowering of tariff, and of a golf club, the opinions of which he receives as a Rotarian, he will tend to disseminate in other groups in which he may have influence. The invisible intertwining structure of groupings and associations are the mechanism by which democracy has organized its group mind and simplified its mass thinking. To deplore the existence of such mechanisms is to ask for a society such as never was and never will be. To admit that it eats but expects that it shall not be used is unreasonable, right? So he's basically saying, like, if you stand here and get to the top of one of these groups, you're getting to the top of a whole lot of these groups, right? Like, if you go to the top of like one of the larger groups, all the individuals who are in that group underneath of there belong to other groups, and so like everything can kind of be disseminated from the top down, right? Emma Louis represents Napoleon, as ever on the watch for indications of public opinions, always listening to the voice of the people, a voice which defies calculation. Do you know, he said in those days, what amazes me more than all else? The impotence of force to organize anything. Yeah, it is the purpose of this book to explain the structure and the mechanism which controls the public mind and to tell how it is manipulated by the special pleader who seeks to create public acceptance for a particular idea or commodity. It will attempt at a time to find the due process and modern democratic scheme for this new propaganda and to suggest its gradually evolving code of ethics and practice. Man, listen. Chapter 2. In the day when kings were kings, Louis IX made his modest remarks. Elisat eset moi. He was clearly right, but times had changed. The steam engine, multiple press, and the public school, that trio of the Industrial Revolution, have taken the power away from the kings and given it to the people. The people have actually gained power, which the king lost, for economic power tends to draw after political power. And the history of the Industrial Revolution shows how the power passed from the king and the aristocracy to the bourgeois, right? Something like that. Bourgeois. Universal suffrage and universal schooling reinforce this tendency, and at last, even the bourgeois, yeah, whatever, bougie, didn't fear the common people, for the masses promised to become king. And y'all know what the bourgeoisie is, or whatever the fuck, I fucking forget how to goddamn pronounce that word. It's the lower classes, right? You know what I mean? It's the basic working man. Today, however, a reaction has set in. The minority has discovered a powerful help and influence majorities. It has been found possible, right? It has found possible also to mold the mind of the masses so that it will throw their newly gained strength in the desired direction. In the present structure of society, this practice is inevitable. Whatever of social importance is done today, whether in politics, finance, manufacture, agriculture, charity, education, or other fields, must be done with the help of propaganda. Propaganda is the executive arm of the invisible government. Universal literacy was supposed to educate the common man to control his environment. Once he could read, and write, he could have the mind that fit the rule. So the man in the democratic doctrine, but instead of a mind, universal literacy has given him rubber stamps inked with advertising slogans, with editorials, with published scientific data, with the trivialities of the tabloids, and with the platitudes of history, but quite innocent of original thought. Each man's rubber stamps are duplicates of millions of others. God damn. Yo, that's some rugged ass shit, man. Let me read that one the fuck again, right? Yo, he said, but instead of a mind, universal literacy has given him rubber stamps. Rubber stamps inked with advertising slogans, editorials, with published scientific data, with the trivialities of tabloids and the platitude of history, but quite innocent of original thought. Each man's rubbered stamps are the duplicates of millions of others. So when the millions are exposed to the same stimuli, all receive identical imprints. Yo, look, school makes you equally stupid. Don't make you equally educated. Man, look, it may seem an exaggeration to say that the American public gets most of its ideas in this wholesale fashion. The mechanism by which ideas are disseminated on a large scale is propaganda, in the broad sense of an organized effort to spread particular belief or doctrine. Dude, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, every time you ask somebody a fucking question, legitimately, they usually come up with the same goddamn answers everybody else does. That's life. I'm aware that the word propaganda carries to many minds an unpleasant connotation. Yet whether in any instance propaganda is good or bad depends on the merit of the cause urged and the correctness of the information published. In itself, the word propaganda has certain technical meanings, which, like most things in this world, are neither good nor bad, but custom makes them so. I find the word defined in Funk and Wagnall's dictionary in 4 ways. A society of cardinals, the overseers of foreign missions, also the College of Propaganda at Rome, founded by Pope Urban VIII in 1627 for the education of missionary priests, Sacred College de Propaganda Fide. Hence, any institution or scheme for propagating a doctrine or system, effort directly systematically towards gaining a public support for an opinion, cause, or action, the principles of advanced by propaganda. You ain't lying. Yo, these are all fucking definitions of propaganda. The scientific America is a recent issue, pleads for the restoration of respectable uses of that fine old world propaganda. There is no word in the English language, it says, whose meaning has been so sadly distorted as the word propaganda. The change took place mainly during the late war, when the term took on a decidedly sinister complexion. If you turn on the standard dictionary, you will find that the word was applied to congregation or society or cardinals for the care and oversight of foreign missions. It was instituted at Rome in the year 1627. It was applied also to the College of his Propaganda at Rome that was founded by Pope Urban VIII for the education of his missionary priest. Hence, in later years, the word became applied to any institution or scheme for propagating a doctrine or system. Judged by this definition, we can see that its true sense, propaganda is a perfectly legitimate form of human activity. Any society, whether it be social, religious, or political, which is possessed of certain beliefs and sets out to make them known, either by the spoken or written words, is practicing propaganda. Let me tell you like this, when the Pope sent those fucking priests out for propaganda purposes, it was to sit here and propagate what the fuck the church wanted them to do, and to set up societies and set up religion in the way the fucking church wanted it to. On other people, not so much forcefully, but through the use of less than nice means, right? Judged by this definition, we can see the truth is mighty and must prevail. And if anybody of men believe that they have discovered a valuable truth, it is not merely their privilege, but their duty to disseminate that truth. Welcome to Pinoy News, my friends. They realize as they quickly must what this spreading of truth can be done upon large scale and effectively only by organized effort. They will make use of the press and platform as the best means to give it a wide circulation. Propaganda becomes a vicious and reprehensible only when the authors consciously and deliberately disseminate what they know to be lies, or when they aim at effects which they know to be prejudicial or to the common good. Propaganda in its proper meaning is perfectly wholesome word of honest parentage. Not really. And with the honorable history, the fact that it should today be carrying a sinister meaning merely shows how much of the child remains in the average adult. Yo, legitimately, like, man, look, yo, shit ain't changed, homie. Shit ain't changed. When motherfuckers want to sell something to you, they got 2 ways of doing it. They can go the high road or they can go the low road. He's going both. You know what I mean? Like, yo, the left goes, well, you should be nice because racism is bad. And then he goes, well, like, yo, you need to have the right to free speech. Fucking Nazi! Nigga, I got you. And this is how the fuck, like, yo, this is what I'm saying. Like, this is what this type of shit does for you. Right? Oh man, let me fucking see where the fuck I was at. Right, fucking. Yo, it sets out make them known either by spoken words. Yeah. Anyway, but organized propaganda becomes vicious and reprehensible only when its alters consciously and deliberately disseminate what they know to be lies. Right. Oh, here we go. Yeah. A group of citizens writes and talks in favor of certain course of action in some debatable question, believing that it is promoting the best interest of the community. When they're doing something right, is that propaganda? Not a bit of it. Just a plain, forcible statement of truth. But let another group of citizens express opposing views, and they are promptly labeled with the sinister name of propaganda. What is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander, says a wise old proverb. Let us make haste and put this fine old word back to where it belongs and restore its dignified significance for the use of our children, our children's children. The extent to which propaganda shapes the progress and affairs about us may even surprise well-informed persons. Nevertheless, it is only necessary to look under the surface of the newspaper for a hint as to the propaganda's authority over public opinion. Page 1 of the New York Times on the day these paragraphs are written contains 8 important news stories. 4 of them, 1/2, are propaganda. The casual reader accepts them as accounts of spontaneous news stories, of spontaneous happenings. But are they? Here comes the headlines that pronounce them. 12 nations warn China real reform must come before they give relief. Pritchett reports Zionism will fail. Realty men demand a transit inquiry. And our living standard highest in history, says Hoover report. Take them in order. The article on China explains the joint report of the Commission on Extraterritorial in China, presenting an exposition at the power stand in Chinese muddle. What it says is less important than what it is. It was made public by the State Department today, with the purpose of presenting to the American public a picture of the State Department's position. Its source gives authority, and the American public tends to accept and support the State Department view. The report of Dr. Pritchett, a trustee of the Carnegie Foundation for International Peace, is an attempt to find facts about this Jewish colony in the midst of a restless Arab world. When Dr. Pritchett's survey convinced him that in the long run Zionism would bring more bitterness and more unhappiness, both for the Jew and the average, this point of view was broadcast with all the authority of the Carnegie Foundation, so the public would hear and believe. The statement of the president of the Real Estate Board of New York and Secretary Hoover's report are similar attempts to influence public opinions towards an opinion. Man, listen. Yo, look here. For all y'all conspiracy theory nuts out there, the Carnegie Foundation was trying to tell you that fucking Israel wouldn't work back in the day. A lot of what y'all know, y'all don't know. I just want to tell y'all that. A lot of what you know, you don't know. Like, always keep your mind open to new ideas. It's fucking important. These examples are not given to create the impression that there is anything sinister about propaganda. They are set down rather to illustrate how conscious direction is given to events and how the men behind these events influence public opinion. As much as they are examples of modern propaganda, at this point we may attempt to define propaganda. Modern propaganda is a consistent, enduring effort to create or shape events to influence the relations of the public to an enterprise, idea, or group. This practice of creating circumstances and of creating pictures in the minds of millions of persons is very common. There we go. Yeah, virtually no important undertaking is now carried on without it. Whether that enterprise be building a cathedral, endowing a university, marketing a movie picture, floating a large bond issue, or electing a president, sometimes the effort on the public is created by a professional propagandist, sometimes by an amateur deputed for the job. The important thing is that the universal and continuous and in sum total, it is regimenting the public mind every bit as much as the army regiments the bodies of its soldiers. Hey, look, man, if y'all don't like how the fuck I read, just so you know, legitimately, put it like this: if y'all don't like how I read, nigga, do it your fucking self. You know what I mean? I get tired of, like, I'm doing this stuff because nobody else is fucking doing it. And I think it needs to be done. Like, on some serious shit. There's things that need to be done, and I'm going to fucking do them because nobody else is fucking doing it. It's like, goddamn it, dishes need done. I'm fucking hungry. Fuck it, I'll do the goddamn dishes. So vast are the numbers of mind which can be regimented, and so tenacious are they that when they're regimented, that a group of, at times, offers an irresistible pressure before legislators, editors, and teachers are helpless. The group will cling to a stereotype, as Walter Lippmann calls it, making of those supposedly powerful beings, the leaders of public opinion, mere bits of driftwood in the surf. When an imperial wizard, sensing that it's perhaps hunger for an ideal offers a picture of a nation all Nordic and nationalistic, the common man of the older America stock, feeling himself elbowed out of his rightful position in prosperity by the newer immigrant stocks, grasps the picture which fits in so neatly with his prejudices and makes it his own. He buys the sheet and pillowcase costume and bands with the fellows by the thousands, the huge group of power enough to swing state elections and throw a ponderous monkey wrench into the national convention. What we've been going through, we have been going through forever. Legitimately, been going through forever. You know what I mean? In our present social organization, approval of the public is essential to any large undertaking. Hence, a laudable movement may be lost unless it impresses itself upon the public mind. Charity, as well as business and politics and literature for that matter, have had to adopt propaganda. For the public, must be regimented into giving money just as must be regimented into tuberculosis prophylactics. Again, must be regimented in the tuberculosis prophylaxis, vaccines. There we go. The Near East relief. You know what I mean? Yo, we're having the same fucking arguments we had in 1928. So you know you're all fucking retarded, right? The Near East relief, the association, the improvement of condition of the poor of New York, and all the rest had to work on public opinion just as though they had tubes of toothpaste to sell. We are proud of your diminishing infant death rate. That is to the work of propaganda. Propaganda does exist on all sides of us, and it does change our mental pictures of the world, even if this be unduly pessimistic and remains to be proved. The opinion reflects a tendency that it is undoubtedly real, in fact. Its use is growing, and its efficiency is gaining public support is recognized. This then evidently indicates that the fact that anyone with sufficient influence can lead sections of the public, at least for a time, and given a purpose. Formerly, the rulers were the leaders, and they laid out the course of history by the simple process of doing what they wanted. And if nowadays the successor of the rulers, whose position or ability gives them power, can no longer do what they want without the approval of the masses, they find in propaganda a tool which is increasingly powerful in gaining the approval. Therefore, propaganda is here to stay. It was, of course, the astounding success of propaganda during the war that opened the eyes of the intelligent few in all departments of life to the possibilities of regimenting the public mind. The American government and numerous patriotic agencies developed a technique which to most persons accustomed to bidding for public acceptance was new. They not only appealed to the individual by means of every approach, visual, graphic, and auditory, to support the national endeavor, they also secured the cooperation of the key men in every group, persons whose mere word carried authority to hundreds or hundreds of thousands of followers. Man, this is, look, you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all motherfuckers, like, this is why the fuck y'all need to, like, start reading shit. You know what I mean? It's fucking important. You know what I mean? They thus automatically gain the support of fraternal, religious, commercial, patriotic, social, and local groups, whose members took their opinions from their accustomed leaders and spokesmen, or from the periodical publications for which they were accustomed to read and believe. At the time, the manipulators of patriotic opinion made use of mental cliches and in the emotional habits of the public to produce mass reactions against alleged atrocities. The terror and terror of the enemy, it was only natural after the war ended that intelligent persons should ask themselves whether it was not possible to apply a similar technique to the problems of peace. As a matter of fact, the practice of propaganda since the war has assumed very different forms from those prevalent 20 years ago. This new technique may fairly be called the new propaganda. It takes account not merely of the individual, nor even of the mass minds alone, but also especially of the autonomy and the anatomy of society with its interlocking group formations and loyalties. It sees the individual not only as a cell in a social organism, Yeah, social organism, but as a cell organized to that social unit. Touch a nerve at a sensitive spot, and you get an automatic response from certain specific members of that organism. Where are we at? Business offers graphic examples of this effect. Graphic examples of the effect that may be produced upon the public by interested groups such as textile manufacturers losing their markets. The problem arose not long ago when the velvet manufacturers were facing ruin because their product had long been out of fashion. Analysis showed that it was impossible to revive a velvet fashion within America. The anatomical hunt for a vital spot. Paris, obviously, but yes and no. Paris, the home of fashion. Line is the home of silk. The attack had to be made at the source. It was determined to substitute a purpose for chance, and to utilize the regular sources for fashion distribution and influence the public from these sources. A velvet fashion service openly supported the manufacturers, was organized, and its first function was to establish contact with the Lyons manufacturers in Paris, Cartiers, to discover what they were doing, to encourage them to act on behalf of velvet and to help in the proper exploitation of their wares. An intelligent Parisian enlisted in the work. He visited Lanvin, Worth, and Agnes and Patel and others and induced them to use the velvet in their gowns and hats. It was he who arranged for distinguished Countess this or Duchess that to wear the hat or the gown. And as for the presentation, the idea to the public, the American buyer, the American woman of fashion, was simply shown the velvet creation in the Adiel dressmaker of the milliner. She bought the velvet because she liked it and because it was in fashion. The editors of the late American magazines and fashion reporters in the American newspapers likewise subjected to the actual, although created circumstance, reflected it in their news, which in turn subjected the buyer and consumer here to the same influence. The result was that the first trickle of velvet became a flood. A demand was slowly but deliberately created in Paris and America, and a big department store aiming to be a style leader advertised velvet gowns and hats on the authority of the French Cartiers and quoted original cables received from them. The echo of the new style note was heard from hundreds of department stores throughout the country which wanted to be style leaders too. Bulletins followed dispatches. The mail followed the cables, and the American woman traveler appeared before the ship news photographers in a velvet gown and hat. This created circumstances had their effect. Fickle fashion has veered to velvet, was one of the newspaper comments, and the industry in the United States again kept thousands busy. Do y'all understand why the fuck I'm reading you this fucking book yet? Do y'all fucking get this shit yet, man? Like, real shit. Y'all need to understand there's a reason why I'm reading you this shit. These motherfuckers legitimately know what the fuck they're doing, and you need to learn how to see past the bullshit. The newspaper propaganda, having in regard the constitution of society as a whole, not ineffectually serves to focus and realize the desires of the masses. A desire for a specific reform, however widespread, cannot be translated into action until it's made articulate and until it has exerted sufficient pressure upon the proper lawmaking bodies. Millions of housewives may feel that the manufacturing foods deleterious to their health should be prohibited, but there is little chance that their individual desires will be translated into effective legal form unless their half-expressed demand can be organized, made vocal, and concentrated upon the state legislature or upon the federal Congress in some mode which will produce the results they desire. Whether they realize it or not, they call upon propaganda to organize and effectuate their demand. But clearly it is intelligent minorities which need to make the use of propaganda continuously and systematically in the act of proselytizing minorities in whom selfish interest and public interest coincide lie the progress and development of America. Only through the active energy of the intelligent few can the public at large become aware of and act upon new ideas. Small groups of persons can and do make the most of us think what they please about a given subject, but there are usually proponents and opponents of every propaganda, both of whom are equally eager to convince the majority.